So welcome, as Sarah said, thanks very much for taking some time out of your Tuesday evening to join our A Guide to webinar. This last week has been a bit more of the same, I guess, for the Chamber. We've been doing quite a bit of talking to governments and giving them feedback on some of the issues that businesses are experiencing. So things like the local authority grants, which are definitely getting to lots of people, but there's still people falling through cracks, or we're also now discovering that there's maybe people's applications are a bit stuck because they've not provided all of the evidence, or we've heard in particular from Angus Council that actually they've been trying to get in touch with some people that they've got queries on and people just aren't getting back to them. So there's just all sorts of things like that bubbling away. We're also hearing that businesses are getting a bit stuck through the business interruption loan schemes. So some of the banks have got some really good online forms, but then that's where it all goes a bit quiet. So, we just encourage you to kind of let us know if you are experiencing any kinds of difficulties. We're also trying to promote some of the new things. This is the thing that is so fast moving. The government's brought out a new bounce back loan that is going to apply to the smaller end of the business market, but as ever, there's an announcement and there's absolutely no detail. There's no information about how you're eligible for that. There's a bit of information about how you'll apply, but it's, you can't actually apply for it yet. So lots of things like that going on. Our COVID hub has been updated, so, you could keep an eye on that. It will have as much of the up-to-date information as we can possibly get to it. And we're just trying to make sure that we are listening so that when we can influence government, and they are changing their policy when they can come up with something that does cover the people that are not caught by some of the support. We've also been talking to our platinum partners and our enterprise partners. So last week we had another conversation with them all where we're hearing about their issues, but they're very much there to support businesses. So we've got some businesses that are looking for mentoring, and we're going to pair those with some of the platinum partners to get some businesses some very practical support. And we're continuing with our webinar programme. So as you may know, this is our A Guide to series on a Tuesday evening, but on a Wednesday we do a session that's aimed at the people in your business. So tomorrow's session is about nutrition, and how to look after yourselves and how to encourage your teams to look after themselves while we're all in lockdown. And then on a Thursday, our business support webinar is about support for the business element rather than the people element of what you do. And this week it's about digital solutions and transformation. So it's a bit of a technology theme this week, which is great. So I guess that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of what we've been doing. Would be really interested to hear any kind of challenges you've got, but I think I'm going to get out of the way while we listen to Charlotte and Ann-Maree. So if I could hand over to Charlotte, remember to unmute yourself because I always forget that. And then as soon as I can hear you, I'll tell you I can, and then I'm going to mute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Great, that's great. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm just going to quickly go and share my screen with you all as well and get started. So just quickly, I thought I'd just tell you a little bit about me. So I'm the commercial director at Mint Accounting, which is on Dock Street in Dundee. As the name suggests, we're accountants. So we provide all kind of a normal accounting and tax services to our clients, but with our primary goal of really trying to help our clients understand their businesses. We work with lots of different types of businesses, but e-commerce is one of our areas of focus. We have quite a lot of clients within this sector, though most of them sell mainly via Amazon. They will sell via other platforms like their websites and eBay, but most of them have the majority of the sales on Amazon. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that because that might have directed some of what I'm going to cover off just now. I've just done a few slides and kind of taken a focus of what things we would tell somebody thinking of starting an e-commerce business. My understanding is that quite a few people on the call are thinking about starting a business like this or may have already done so, but be at the early stages. So I've kind of tried to keep it quite simple and keep it to 5 tips. So number 1 is don't underestimate accounting complexity. So, as I'm sure you're aware, e-commerce is generally viewed as a relatively easy or simple business to get off the ground. You need to normally find a product and someone to supply you with that product. Pick a platform to sell on, whether that's Amazon, eBay, or you have a website built, and kind of you're good to go from there. Your overheads are generally pretty limited too. The problem is accountancy for e-commerce can actually be more complex. What we find is people very, very quickly start selling in lots of countries, whether that's across the EU or across the world. And this can actually happen by accident. But issues can arise with that in that you might need to report taxes in those countries. So we have to kind of keep on top of what our e-commerce clients are doing very, very regularly to check that they don't need to go and do, say, VAT in Germany or something. On top of that, we have an impending issue for many clients within the e-commerce sector in that when we do eventually full Brexit, they may need to start paying additional kind of import taxes that they've not been paying before if they're bringing things in from the European Union. So things can be a little bit complex from our side of things. We wouldn't want to put anyone off doing this sort of business, but I think it's really important that people are made aware that running your business is quite simple, but accounting for it and ensuring you're paying your taxes can be a little bit more complex with this sector. This sort of leads on to my second point, which is to ensure you consider your business structure options and to get detailed advice on this. Most businesses will opt to start as a sole trade to start with. That's regular across all sectors. It removes some accounting complexity and people think it's the easiest way to get started. But actually, often we find this isn't the best structure for a business to take. Lots of our e-commerce clients actually start that business kind of a sideline to employment or even to another business. And in situations like that, it actually means that a limited company might be their better option so that we can kind of control their taxes. As I talked about on the last slide, obviously there is some complexity when it comes to things like VAT and trading across different countries. So getting advice on your structure is pretty critical because you want to kind of protect yourself. So I strongly recommend you have a conversation with a professional so that they give you advice specific to you. And it's not kind of just advice that you find generally online, or don't just follow what maybe your friend's doing because it might not actually work right for you. And it can be quite difficult to unwind as well. So the next one is set up your accounting systems now. I feel like it is no surprise that I'm going to be saying this to you all, but it is pretty critical to the success of your company. We would strongly recommend you go for an online accounting system. To be honest, we actually wouldn't be able to support our clients who didn't do that because of the kind of additional layers of complexity from our side. We need to have access to the same system you're using all the time so we can keep you in the loop and, you know, make sure you're doing everything right. In addition to that, HMRC are likely to require you to keep your books online and submit your taxes via a digital platform. Though that might not happen until a year into business, it's better that you get started straight away and really early on. We recommend a product called Xero, and that is because it's the most comprehensive system for you as a business owner, but also for us as accountants. It lets you link to your sales platforms as well, which is really, really great. Link My Books is a third-party product that lets you integrate your Amazon sales directly into your accounting system. Most of your websites, if the back end kind of is Shopify or something like that, that is also pulled into Xero. So it means that all your information across all the platforms you're selling can come into one place so that we or your accountant can do the work that they need to be doing. Xero is really great because it has its own app store essentially, so you can kind of get products for anything you want to do. The other one we would strongly recommend you take a look at is Receipt Bank, which lets you just take a photo of any receipts and bills, and it basically pulls the data out and puts it into Xero. Like, you want to spend as little time as possible on these systems, which is why we recommend you go online. Definitely ask your accountant to help you, because many of these will allow kind of reporting that we'll talk about later, that will let you see how you're doing in terms of your business on a regular basis. My next point is invest in external support, whether that's an accountant, an e-commerce network, an e-commerce business coach, or even just training like this. It's definitely worth it. I totally understand it can be hard for any new business to spend money on things that are deemed not essentially required by the business, but those that do invest early on will move forward quickly. Early investment is crucial if you want to scale quickly. So if you're setting up an e-commerce business with a view to sell it down the line, you definitely need to invest in external support quickly. Our e-commerce clients generally go for management reporting services, where we give them up-to-date accounts regularly and discuss these with them. We also run our new seller monthly support group, where we help train people on things like profit and loss accounts, balance sheets, and look at KPIs so they know constantly at their business how their business is doing. This one. Understand that there will be risk in starting a business and that you may need to adapt to changes in your market quickly. Specifically, put COVID-19 here. Like, we're all aware of what's going on at the moment, and it is something none of us could have predicted. As a new business, you may actually be relatively unaffected by the coronavirus, as you might not have got that far down the line that you have employees at this point, or you've got lots of contracts that you need to meet in place. So you might be managing, but it will likely to be affecting you when you launch. Depending on where products are coming from or you plan to source them from, there may also be delays in them reaching you. We've got clients who've not been able to access their products since January, as their suppliers are based in China. So they stopped producing in January, and though China's coming out the other side, we're not. So they've actually not traded since then. Amazon has temporarily stopped its fulfillment service, which they call FBA, for products that they deem non-essential. They're struggling to meet the requirements of deliveries at this point in time. So some businesses simply cannot sell via that platform. So it's causing problems. There are lots of opportunities at the moment. If you're looking to launch a new business, then now could be a good time, as people are shopping online a lot. You know, it's the only place they can go to shop. If you were an established business prior to this and have been struggling a little, then some of the grants, like the Business Bounce Back grant that Alison mentioned earlier, might actually help you move forward and potentially move forward more quickly than you would have previously. So really, really make sure you're getting some advice on this as well. I know the Chamber are keeping everyone up to date, so I would definitely be keeping on top of their updates. So they're kind of my main overview points. I'm really conscious that I don't have lots of time. So now I've covered them, I thought it'd be really good to talk you through a case study. So this is a case study of a client called B-Skier, which was owned by a client that's still a client called Ben Leonard. And he was one of our first e-commerce and Amazon clients. He joined us in early 2017 as a sole trade business. At that point, Ben was in full-time employment and ran this business as a sideline project. B-Skier sells boxing-related equipment. Ben took quite not a different approach, but he decided really early on that he would develop his own product range, source those products from outside the UK, and actually secured trademarks for his products. His brand became known really, really quickly, and it's actually I didn't realize how well known it was until we had a new member of staff join our team, and they were talking to me about Ben's products, but they didn't know Ben was the client. So that kind of told us how well it was going for him. By the end of his third year in trading, he was turning over £2 million. And then in October 2019, Ben actually sold his business to another company for a 6-figure sum. So he's really kind of a shining example of what can be achieved in this sector. So what support did he need, and what steps did he take to get there? Initially, when he became a client of ours, he really joined us just asking us to do his year-end accounts and his tax returns and help with his VAT. We quite quickly moved him from being a sole trader to a limited company. So that happened within the first year because we could already see the growth was pretty good. Once we moved him to being a limited company, we moved him onto what we call our business growth service. So he got these management reports every month, and we did a lot of cash flow forecasting and performance analysis for him on a monthly basis. He also joined something called the Amazing FBA Network, which was another thing that he spent money on being part of, which allowed him to understand more about his business. We assisted Ben to identify the right time to leave employment and the right time to put his business up for sale. And we then assisted with the whole sale process and kind of got him ready for that. So worked with him, RMD, hand-holded him for 6 months prior to sale on the financial side of things, making sure everything was right. And he was approached. He didn't go to market with his business. Someone approached him and said, we would like to buy you. And he got out really quickly, which was great. So he's been kind of a perfect client for us, and it is a really good example of what can be achieved. The key things with Ben is he embraced technology, and he also understood what he needed to do to reach his goals. And he went out, and asked people for help. And I think that's really important too. So because I talk really fast, I've actually finished as well. So I think I'm just going to pass over to Ann-Maree, because we're going to come back round for questions. So if I just pass over to Ann-Maree, do you want to unmute, and then I'll mute when I know you can speak?
Yep, that's me unmuted. Hi, everybody. Can you all hear me okay? I'm Ann-Maree from Labels for Kids. I'm going to share my screen in a minute as well. Thanks, Charlotte. That was really interesting, and it leads quite well into some of the stuff I want to say. I will just get to my screen first and start with this for you. To give you a bit of a background on myself, I'm Ann-Maree Morrison. I'm from Australia originally, if you can't work the accent out. I've been in the UK longer than I've been in Australia now. But I started Labels for Kids. This is our website here. I'm going to start from the beginning of the slide so you can see the whole screen. This is our current website. We started, I started Labels for Kids 16 years ago, and it's sort of gone from strength to strength. We've gone through highs and lows like all businesses do. So don't think that going online means that you're not going to be completely on, that you're going to be completely on a high, because you will get lows like COVID-19 as well. So we've gone through about, I've lost count, at least 6 website rebuilds probably since we started, but this is the current site, and you can see we have here French, German, Italian, Spanish and Swedish websites, as well as the UK one. What I also do is Ann-Maree.biz. I help companies to work out basically what platform they should be on, how to find the right developer, the tips and hints on things that can go wrong or right in e-commerce with my under the brand Ann-Maree.biz on top of doing Labels for Kids. So if anyone needs any advice, that's where you can track me down, which I'll talk about later. Here's where you start with e-commerce, which is leads quite well on from what Charlotte was saying. This is the e-commerce landscape, basically. So this is what you're getting yourself into if you're looking at going online and selling with an e-commerce store. There's a whole pile of...
And sorry to interrupt, Ann-Maree. It doesn't look like your presentation's moving on.
Oh, am I stuck? Right, okay. Let me go back out again from the beginning. Can you see the second page now?
So all we're seeing is the PowerPoint
First
presentation
screen.
where you would edit it.
That's kind of weird. Okay, right, that's fine. So if I go, right, hiccups as always, right, there's the, you're not seeing this screen, the main screen.
No, I can see it changing in your in the reflection.
On my screen. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it changing.
Okay.
On
Shall
your
we go
face,
this way in that case then?
but it's
Does
not.
it change now? Okay, let's do setup. No, that's fine. Presentations, we get a full screen. That's kind of weird, isn't it? It was working before when we did a sample.
Do you?
Right. From the current slide, maybe if I go back from the current slide. That's a first. Sorry, everybody.
Okay.
From the current slide. Okay. Can you see the whole screen now? No.
Nope, it's still just that presentation.
That's bizarre. Okay. Can you see the second page if I just click on it like that?
Yeah, I was about to say, do you want to maybe just do it that way, and then
I'll
if
do
it's
it this
okay
way.
with you, we could perhaps
Yeah.
share the presentation afterwards.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as you can see the second slide now. So you're now on the Ann-Maree.biz screen.
Yes, yeah.
That's really weird. Oh, wow. Okay, well, this is the first, but sorry. So you're now on Ann-Maree.biz so that we discussed that. And then this page, can you see the third page with all of the writing all over it? So basically, this shows you the e-commerce landscape and why I'm going to ask you quite a few questions about why you want to go online. So if you can see this page there, we have all different areas in e-commerce. It's not just put my website online and that's me. I'm going to be on position 1 of page 1 straight away. We have tons of different things to consider, from just social media advertising, content marketing, which type of accounting software you're going to use. Like for example, I used to be on Sage, but I really like Xero, so I use that as well. And I'm an accountant, but I still like Xero. I still like Xero much better than Sage. And there's tons of dashboards and things about search engine optimization, how to monitor your website, and so on. So you have to know what you're getting yourself into if you want to go online, and it's not as simple as it sounds. So I'm going to move on to some questions for you. I know some of you are thinking of going online and some of you are maybe already there. So there are a number of things to consider about which platform would you need, and do you even need one? So as Charlotte had mentioned, there's things like, are you B2B or are you B2C? Business to consumer tends to do much better on e-commerce, because e-commerce is basically trading online, having a buying and selling with a transaction online. And B2C is much more successful on some of the platforms I'm going to go into. B2B can also do well online, but tends to do better on things like LinkedIn, or doing posts on LinkedIn or articles on LinkedIn, email marketing direct to your current customer base. And you can consider things like Facebook, for example, if depending on your audience. For example, in labeling, our audience is basically parents, mostly mothers up to about the age of 35. So for us, Facebook and Instagram are both a really good platform. But for other people, not so much. Maybe if you're geared to maybe older people, or if you're looking more at the male market, then Facebook might not be the right platform for you. So are you already trading online, or are you new to e-commerce? If you're already trading online, the biggest win is your search engine optimization. You cannot overlook the fact that search engine optimization is free, whereas if you're actually going to do anything else like Google ads, Facebook ads, things like that are going to cost you a lot more money. And typical agency may charge you about, it's something like 25% of what of their is of the cost of everything that you spend on optimizing or doing your website could be the agency fees. So it can be really high. You need to think about things like, are you on social media? Does that work well for you? And so, as I said before, if it does, maybe you need to be looking at something like Facebook ads or even Google ads, Instagram, reaching out to influencers in your area on Instagram. And there's so much more can be done with that if you're already on that platform, if you do it the right way. Likewise, if you have a blog, this works well B2B and B2C because it's adding new content to your website. And Google really loves new content that they can send their robots to crawl. If you have new content out there all the time, that's what they want to see, because it shows that you're an expert in your field and you're putting content that users want online. The biggest thing with the blog, though, is don't just write about something that you think people want to hear. You need to write about something people do actually want to hear about. So there's various tools you can use, like Answer the Public. There's a website, answerthepublic.com, or look at Google Trends, look at we call it AH, some call it Ahrefs, some call it Ahrefs, some call it, refs, basically. There's a site called ahrefs.com, which I'll go on to later, but you can actually look there at the main keywords, or just do a Google keyword research on the main keywords people are using. And if there's a long tail phrases that people are using, such as you may not be looking for a computer, you might be looking for a laptop computer 14-inch, or you might be looking for a grey laptop computer touchscreen 14-inch, something like that. If these phrases are something that people are searching for and you're selling computers, then they're the phrases that you want to be incorporating into your blog, and you want to make sure you have a title, and both an H1 title, which is the top level header, and an H2 title, which is the second level, as if you are doing a subtitle. You need those within the blog, and you need it fairly long. So there's definite tricks on how to write a blog properly that is actually going to be picked up by Google and possibly be given a snippet, which is a free screen view of the section of your blog that Google feels is the most authoritative talk on the topic in the whatever area you're writing about. So you need to think about blogging as being another way forward rather than a new website build. Where are your audience? We discussed, and what location. You'd be surprised how many people don't actually claim my business on Google Local. So basically, if you look at Google Local Business and go in there and claim your business, it should be listed, and just there's an actual automated process of claiming the business and making sure that you actually put in content on local business for Google. And that's a really big quick win for people that have like cafes or restaurants that are very local. You want local audience coming to you when you're open, post COVID-19. When you're not open, I can suggest things like going online on things like a blog or on Instagram and Facebook, as we mentioned, and doing live videos, even if it's a B2B market, doing a live recording on LinkedIn and putting it on LinkedIn. These things can get to your audience, and use your email database, because that's your biggest asset, is your database. Make sure you use that to the hilt and email them with maybe how to make recipes if you're a restaurant or a cafe, for example. How great restaurants of 15-minute meals or something from the chef, things that they may be interested in while you're on lockdown, and try and encourage them back when you come back off lockdown. We looked at what type of product or service you have. So as I say, that makes a big difference whether you want to maybe sell online or whether you actually want to continue with social media channels and blogging. Look at your seasonality. For myself, for example, labeling is very seasonal. Most businesses are very seasonal, and we were always going to have a peak in the summer. And I never knew, I wasn't really worried that wasn't going to be an all year round thing. I'm a chartered accountant background and a management consultant, and I knew, okay, I don't have a product that's going to sell all year, but I've got a product that parents want for the school market. And I knew I would have 2 or 3 months of the year where I'd be really busy, and the rest of the year would be really quiet. And obviously, if you want to make a lot of money and cash that out, sell out, and retire early, you want something that's going to sell 12 months of the year. So if you have a product like that, then you've got it made. You've got a number of different markets for each season. If you don't, you really need to do what Charlotte said and really, really watch the cash flow. I mean, this is something that's very important for every business, not just online businesses. But people forget when they have an online business that you don't have a store that you're open to the public as such, but you have an online store that's open to the public. And there's certain things that you just can't stop. We can't just say, I'll lock the front door like you can in a cafe or a restaurant. You can't just say, "I'll lock the front door and that's me shut for a certain period of time." And okay, I've got the rent covered and maybe furlough some staff. With an online business, you still have the server that has to stay up. You still have the ratings software that you use that has to stay up. You still have to have your email software so that your emails can keep coming in. And there's so many things that people don't think about with e-commerce, where they just assume that we don't have the ongoing overheads, but we certainly do. And that's something you need to keep a close eye on. You need to look at your current turnover level. This determines what type of platform you may want to go onto. The main ones at the moment for an e-commerce, particularly B2C basis, would be, I would rate the top 3 as not in any particular order, but Magento, BigCommerce, Shopify, and then you would maybe look at, if you're really small, maybe have a look at WooCommerce as another alternative. They all have different advantages and disadvantages. Of all of them, Shopify is by far the most popular at the moment for basically being able to get you online quick and being relatively cheap in comparison to Magento and BigCommerce. WooCommerce, I think, is slightly cheaper again than Shopify, but Shopify optimizes much better than WooCommerce, I would say, and is the one out of the 2 that I would recommend. However, with Shopify, you are basically paying rental because you're basically on a cloud. You don't own the website. And if you want to go international, it has some massive disadvantages. It also doesn't optimize as well as Magento, and it doesn't optimize as well as BigCommerce. So Magento is the other end. Basically, you own your own website. You have a massive build to do. It can be quite expensive to do, but it is really good at search engine optimization on its own because of the way it's structured. It has tons of apps that can be added into it, plugins that can be added in, and is not for the faint-hearted. If you're looking for under 1 million turnover, I would say Shopify should be sufficient. If you're looking to grow much bigger and you want to internationalize, I would look at something like either BigCommerce or Magento. BigCommerce is a little bit of the cloud idea as well. So basically it's between the 2. So I would say at one end Shopify, one end, the other end Magento, and somewhere in between is BigCommerce. So but those were the 3 would be worth looking at and making your own decision on what's going to suit you. That's where we handle the turnover level and the internationalization. The budget and timescale is important, and your cash flow. As I said, Magento is not for the faint-hearted. It's difficult to put in line. It's difficult to find an expert to help. You will need an expert developer to help you build that. And it is difficult to find somebody good. And once you got them, they're like gold dust. You don't let them go. I'm on Magento and I will probably stay with Magento, but I would die if my developer left. I would be really struggling to find another good one. And we've had some horror stories over the years. Likewise, BigCommerce, it's fairly relatively new, but it's trying to get somewhere towards some of the business from Magento 1 clients that are moving to Magento 2, and BigCommerce are trying to capture some of that market. And they also see Shopify doing well with their market, so they're trying to get in the picture as well. And I think it's relatively good platform if you can find the right developer. But you need a lot of cash flow to build a website, which is why I asked the question, do you really need a website, or can you take advantage of what you currently have in terms of your social media platforms and your blogging and your email list, which is one of your main advantages, having a big email list. And also look at your lifestyle, because an e-commerce business is 24/7, 7 days a week. You can't just shut the door. I've broken 2 little toes trying to get to the computer screen when the phone rang, basically, and the phone was ringing on my screen. I had to get there to get the order. You have a live chat, which is only live when you have somebody that's actually got it on activated live. So unless you want to get that outsourced to somebody in other, a customer service company that can handle the live chat for you, then you need to be able to handle that or have some sort of backup plan if it's not on live, so that it can send a contact form and people realize which hours you'll be on and not on. So there's some big things to think about. If we go to this next screen, make the most of what you have. I think I've covered most of it. But search engine optimization, as I say, is really important. And there's certain sites that I can show you in a minute that will help you with that, on basically on what you can do, and the quickest way to optimize your website, basically, because it is free. It's not paid like Google Ads or Facebook Ads, which can cost you quite a lot of money. If you have Facebook advertising or Google Ads, I would recommend that you actually do use an agency to try and do that for you. You can learn it yourself, and I recommend you learn all these things yourself as well. But you really need to, if you outsource anything in e-commerce, the main tip I would give is to know how to do it yourself first. Because if you can't do it yourself, then you don't know what you're outsourcing, and you can't keep control of the costs and the return on investment. If you find a really good person that can handle your Facebook ads and your Google ads, then keep with that person, because they're very difficult to find as well. And after 16 years, I've managed to find some good ones, which I'm not going to let go. For example, we had Facebook ads we were doing ourselves in-house. We had about 2 times return on investment of what we invested in the ads. And we swapped to somebody with 20 years Google experience, who used to work with them from the time they opened, and we now get about 8 times return. So there's quite a lot of lost money if I hadn't have found that guy. So next, some hints on some websites to look at, and I'm sure the girls can share this with you later. But Small Biz Trends is quite a good article on the difference between different platforms. Ahrefs I discussed is tons of, the Academy has tons of information on how to optimize your website, what to look for, how to fix broken links. Because you probably, if you have a website, you probably have some really massive wins that you can get straight away to help get you up the listings on Google. And you're never going to go straight to number 1, position 1. It's even if you get there, it's very difficult to stay in that position. But there's a lot of small things you can do that can make a massive difference. So have a look at the Academy, which I believe is free anyway, for people to look at. And certain ones that are paid are currently free because of COVID-19. So there's a bonus there. Also, HubSpot, SEMrush, and Search Engine Journal have really good emails and really good blogs that are worth following. And they also have some academies that can help you with your optimization. I run the E-commerce Growth Club, which is in Stirling once a month on the last Tuesday, and that's worth coming along to. We're currently shut because of COVID-19 with the distancing regulations, but we should be back in action soon. And I've linked up with the Institute of E-commerce, which is new for Scotland, and I'm running the clubs there, helping coordinate the clubs for them in Edinburgh, Glasgow, Aberdeen, and also the Stirling one that I've been running for a while. So take a look at the website of Institute e-commerce, because there's a blog there and we're starting to populate that with more information. And you can always get in touch with me if you want more information on things. I'm happy to help at a relatively low cost compared to agencies, because I just do it to help, because I've been in the industry for so long and I've seen so many things go right and wrong. Also, The Ultimate Guide to E-commerce by Ian Hammersley and Mark Hammersley is a fantastic book. I wish it had been around when I first started. I think they started business about the time I did, about 2004 or so, and they're an agency, but it's a must-have if you want to go online. You really got to read that book. And also Going Global by Emma Jones, if you're looking to internationalize, is a great book, and we are featured in it, so I would have a look at that. And that's me. If you want to contact me, feel free to contact me via LinkedIn at any stage, and I'll see if I can help you. So I hope if I can wiggle this and get this back in action here, I can stop sharing my screen. There, we should be back, and I will pass back to Charlotte, I believe.
Oh, thanks very much, Ann-Maree. I'll come in and go through. There's not many questions in the chat. Just remember to use the chat function at the side of the bar there, if you've got any questions for our speakers. One thing I was going to ask you, Ross, are you mic'd up tonight, or are you? I was going to get you just to come in and just speak about Answer the Public and just kind of share with what you use it for. Oh,
yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
All right, cool. Yeah, it's a little bit overwhelming if I'm honest, but it's a really cool site. Even just when you go on it, it's got a kind of a straight, I think they've changed it recently, but they've got a kind of funny guy who just kind of stands glaring at you until you type something in. But it gives you can type in, anything. Obviously, for me, we do laser cutting. So if I type in laser cutting, it basically comes back with hundreds of different questions that people might ask or have done a Google search for related to laser cutting, which I should then use to do something like a blog or keywords in my website and things like that. But I just end up just sitting fascinated at it. Like, to be honest, I don't use it very well, and I need to. And now's really the time to do it. So it's on my to-do list.
Fab. So you've certainly found it worthwhile then, and having a wee.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I would highly recommend anybody just go and type in anything, any word that's relevant to you, and just the volume of information that comes back of things that you maybe haven't thought about before is tremendous. Certainly for myself anyway, it was. But I would imagine it'd be the same for most people.
Yeah, fab, wonderful. Just good to hear how you'd been using it and what you'd found of it. Okay, a couple of questions we've got then. One specifically for yourself, Charlotte. What did Ben do after he sold up?
So he currently consults for the company he sold to, and is in the process of starting another e-commerce business. Like, he's relatively young, so he's under the age of 32. So he's got plenty of time to do it again, which is his goal, I think.
Fab. Yeah, be interesting to see how his story turns out.
Yeah, it will. It's very interesting.
Okay, another one. Alison, do you want to just come in and I know you've got a couple of questions there. Some of them may run into others.
Yep. Just a few things that I kind of jotted down as you were both speaking, but what's the best way to find product suppliers?
I'm probably not the best answer for that.
I can answer that if you like.
Yeah.
Google's great. Like, I just find them on Google and contact them if we need a supply for anything. I contact them and say, it depends the type of business you are, obviously, but if you're wanting somebody that can supply for you and you want them to supply to you at trade, for example, just ask them the question, and they'll either say no or they'll say no, but usually they'll say no, but this person may do, or this person may do, and eventually you get there. It's a bit of a detective work. You become a detective in e-commerce quite quickly.
And then my next question sort of, I think, comes on from that. Is it better to have a small or a large range of products, or does it not matter?
I don't know what you think, Charlotte. I don't think it matters, because the main thing is the seasonality to me. I think if it's the demand for the product and the seasonality, and if you have too many products, you can get lost. So our website's starting to get that way at the moment. We introduced gifts because we wanted another season, which is October-November season, which we did have really we've had it for a couple of years, but it was the biggest season we've had at that time of year was last year. And then, of course, COVID-19 happened. But we've got a second season from it, but it's mean that the website's a bit harder to navigate because it's a bit harder to find the other products. And also Google can get lost. If you're an e-commerce business, Google's crawlers can be a bit confused about, hang on, are you a labeling business or a gift business? So there's a fine balance between the two, but it's more about hitting the right seasonality, that you've got income coming in all year to stop your costs running away with, rather than your income running away. That's fine. That's not a bad problem. It's a cost that you've got to watch.
Yeah, I'd probably say fewer initially, because things we would look at is, if you start with a smaller base, you can work out how well those products are doing. And obviously, as Ann-Maree says, some stuff has got seasonality, but there's products that will just sell consistently all year round, and you need to look at your margins and things on each one. So we normally have clients start with a small range, and then they look to build that as they go forward. And what can happen, so this happened to one of our other clients, is they sold cosmetic products, but within that there was one like shining gem, which actually that business later sold too. But it was all on the basis of one of their products. So you kind of need to work through it. I just wouldn't go in with a massive range to start with, because you need to see what's going to do best and build around that product.
Alison, on that one, I mean, for an example, we started off with just labels for water bottles and lunch boxes and shoes. So it was just the vinyl labels, really, and that was it. And then we knew that we had to do clothing uniform labeling eventually. But, you know, with the first year or two, we didn't do any of that at all. We just introduced the clothing labeling after that. And then we grew the range, like Charlotte said. So it makes much more sense if you can do that.
This is maybe a not a very technical question, but I'm curious, do most people take the products in, do something to them and then send them out, or do most e-commerce businesses never actually touch the product?
I think that's really product specific, actually, and it will depend on the platform that they sell from. So because most of our clients are Amazon, even with Ben, with Biskia, a lot of it never ever reached him, even though it was all branded under his own brand. That all happened in other countries, and then it went into the Amazon fulfillment service and it went out. So he never saw like most of it. They might hold a base layer of stock, but I think that's probably platform and product specific quite a lot, really, Ann-Maree, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is, because you can, yeah, you'll get people that are making stuff from scratch and they might sell more on Etsy or on Amazon or something. You get people that are just doing drop shipping and are selling, you know, that are actually just taking orders and getting somebody else to deliver it for them and making it for them. And you'll get, you know, we do a bit of a mixture of most stuff, I guess, in ours. So we're a bit of yeah, we're a bit of an octopus in that way. We do lots of different things, but it's grown over the years. So it really varies. And I think, like, for example, on Amazon, for example, if you're a brand, it works really well. Amazon didn't work for us. We lost a lot of money with Amazon because, you know, people were just doing a race for the bottom on labeling, you know, which is the cheapest. And it's difficult to differentiate yourself in that market.
And I guess my last question, and if anybody else has got questions, please jump in so I don't hog all the chat. But is it easy to move platforms, or is that not really done? You kind of pick your platform and you stick with it?
No, you tend to move. I've been on a number. Like, I think we started on Roman Cart, and then we went to J Shop, and then we went to a J Shop again, and then we went to another J Shop, and then we went to Magento and had a massive disaster. Then we moved again to another Magento platform, and then another one, and now we're about to move to Magento 2. But the problem you have to look at is when you move, you lose your search engine optimization ranking at least a little bit to start with, if not massively. And there's been some massive horror stories when people move, but then sometimes the platform you're on gets dated, and also the technology's moved on so fast. Really, within, people say 5 years I think for Charlotte might agree, for accounting purposes, they used to say 5 years, and I would say really within 2 or 3. Yeah, like 2 or 3, really, they really need redone, I think. So, and it's not easy to do.
It's one of those things. So I think, like then every business, that bit's the integral part of the business. So as technology changes, you have to move with that. So you're not going to stay consistently on one platform necessarily, and there would be no normal expectation, I don't think, that you would over time, because you would want things to move forward and your shop to perform better. And I imagine, because you were talking about what platforms work best for kind of under $1 million and over $1 million, you might change as the business grows as well, in terms of what you can afford and need, whether you're trading in the UK versus globally.
Yeah, it definitely changes depending on what you want to do. And you're right that, I mean, our foreign orders started coming in virtually within the first year from China or Australia, Russia. We were like, what? Then we did the website builds in other countries, and the cost behind trying to do the development in other countries and stuff for getting the translations right. And every time you move websites, basically you have to retranslate everything, because there'll be layout changes and different buttons and different headers, and it's a bit of a nightmare. It has to really be managed by an agency particularly well, and that's one thing you need to look at with a new move to a new platform, is that they look at the search engine optimization well. They don't just look at doing the build, and picking the right developer is also quite tricky.
Yeah.
And do either of you have a horror story that went well, and was all right in the end? Not necessarily a personal one, but is there something, what are the big things that tend to kind of happen and nearly cause a business to get in big difficulties, and then this is what they do to come out of it? Is there anything like that you can think of?
I can tell you that across loads of types of businesses. Like, honestly, and it's not like a self-pitching thing. It's not getting professional help early on, especially in a business like this, because you'll start trading in different countries and there's quite a lot of complexity with the VAT situation that people will want to manage it, and I understand that themselves, but actually they'll get to the end of the first year and they'll need accounts and tax done by an accountant, and we'll go back through and they should have VAT registered earlier, or they've not reported their VAT correctly, and they end up with tax bills that weren't expected. So I think that's the only like real horror we ever see, is like the delay in getting any advice. Like, and it doesn't to some extent matter whether that advice is directly from an accountant or you have someone like Ann-Maree that you speak to, or you join a network, but you need to be actually finding things out and not winging it. Basically, just don't wing it in this sector at all, please.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that as well. And it's very difficult to do. Basically, I would agree that you need to get the right. I mean, we've had some disaster builds and we've had some really good builds. The biggest disaster was our first move to Magento 1 from JShop, probably. I think we were on at the time, and we probably lost, I would say, over 3 or 4 years, about £100,000 with that build. And that's because we have a lot of personalization on our website. So we had a custom module as well as, so if you're trying to build a website that's just an out of the box website, developers are not so scared of it. If you've also got a custom module that you need to preview the labels on the screen and stuff like that, there wasn't an app at the time that could do it, but now there are some apps out there that might be able to do which we're looking into for the new build. But they have to actually write custom code, and to do that, the trouble with custom coding, it can break the rest of your website, whichever platform that you're on. And we had a massive disaster with that, and then we ended up having to rebuild the site all over again, which is why it ended up costing us 100,000 or something. We had to rebuild it from scratch again with another developer, and we fell out with the developer we were with, and the specification for the build, there's someone at a Scottish Enterprise had looked at with me, and he was in that field and said, this is the best specification I've ever seen. It won't go wrong, but of course it will, because they always do. And of course, then we came back to the chat about, yes, it went wrong. And nobody was expecting that would happen, but it did go wrong, and we've had to rebuild from scratch again. So that's why it's really helpful, I think, taking advice from somebody like myself that's done it before, and advice from someone like Charlotte that's in accounts, because there's some horror stories with the accounting side of stuff and the VAT. And like Magento, for example, I'm not sure about Shopify and Ecommerce, but it's American-based platform, so it's all geared towards sales tax in each state. And ours is different. So the layout even of your invoices has got to be right for the UK, and it takes a bit of development/accounting work to get that right.
Okay, well, it doesn't look like then there's other comments or chat from the rest of the audience. So what I'll maybe do is just round us up there, if that's okay. An opportunity for either of you to say one last thing if you've got anything. You all right?
No.
No, I would just say good luck with your builds, and make the most of what you've got. If you've got an email database or you're online or your blog, use that Answer the Public. Whoever it was, Ross, use that Answer the Public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. That's brilliant. So massive thank you to Charlotte and to Ann-Maree for coming in and sharing their expertise this evening. Taking advantage of technology is definitely, at the top of everybody's list, I think, at the moment, isn't it? Well, some people have got more time on their hands than others. But yeah, no, really, really interesting, and a good way for people to take bricks and mortar that might actually be closed at the moment and kind of turn that into another way to keep connected to their customers. But it's definitely not for the faint-hearted by the sounds of it. But thank you very much. So the recording of this will be shared online, and what we'll do, thank you to the attendees for coming. We'll be sending out a survey and just getting some feedback from you, and we will send out the presentations as well. So massive, massive thank you. Look forward to seeing you on some of our other webinars this week, and well done to Sarah for getting us organised. So thanks very much, folks. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.